Hi there, my name is Bruce Starr. I'm the love coach, and I've been in the relationship business, studying relationships for almost 40 years, TV and radio talk show host, talking about love, and sex, and dating and relationships. And today, we're going to have a great show. Linda Gross, my guest, is a gender differences expert. She has interviewed over 20,000 men for her men's book and gives both sexes tips that actually work. She has a degree in psychology from UCLA, and Ms. Gross has hosted a weekly cable TV show, has been a co-host and guest on dozens of radio shows, was a top 10 blogger for several years, and has been a keynote speaker. In addition to being a published author, Linda Gross is an experienced life coach. She offers targeted one-on-one coaching on conflict resolution, removing long-standing sabotaging behavior, or actualizing career or personal dreams. I'm very happy to welcome Linda Gross to the show. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you, Bruce, for having me. I really appreciate being here.
This is going to be a lot of fun, but I'd like people to kind of get to know you a little bit better. Could you tell us a little bit about you, especially kind of your early years leading up to adulthood, let's say?
Yeah, in my 20s, I started off actually in sales. I've been in sales most of my life, probably my 20s and my 30s, and I was in a long-term relationship, a long-term marriage, and I got a divorce, and then I thought, wow, this dating scene really is terrible. Like, all the rules have changed, and it's like so hard to meet people, and a lot of people are antisocial, hiding behind the internet, which is like full of liars. So I thought, goodness gracious, like a whole new set of rules need to be put into place to teach everybody like how to do it currently. And it seems like we've lost our ways. It seems like women have lost their feminine ways, and men have lost their masculine ways as well. I think the sexes are more homogenized these days, and that doesn't necessarily work for great relationships.
No, it doesn't. It actually is a reason for the mass confusion that we have in relationships right now, and I think it's going to be a long road back to sanity, and I think the world is going to rely on people like you and I to go out there with our work and really let people know, there is a right way and there's a wrong way, and just because the masses, millions of people are doing it wrong, doesn't make it right.
I'm all for empowerment. I think both sexes should be empowered, and one sex should not be lesser than the other sex. But that being said, the sexes are not equal. We each have our strengths and weaknesses that we bring to the table, and it's those highlights that I want to spotlight and empower and make better. So a lot of times, having both sexes do the same rituals in mating and dating, it just doesn't work. I don't see it working.
You put it beautifully about the power that each sex has. It's different. My mentor and teacher, Dr. Pat Allen, many people might have seen her when Patty Stanger has a really tough time with one of her millionaires. She brings in this little old lady, powerhouse of a lady who straightens usually the guy right out. And she put it beautifully. It's not about two people fighting for equality. It's not about equality. You put it beautifully where it's two people realizing that there's equity in relationships, that there's great power in one sex and another kind of power in another sex, but it's different. So we shouldn't be fighting for equality, but we should be striving to bring out the best in each other in our relationships.
Absolutely. I find women today are a little bit too aggressive on the dating scene, and they don't want to get into their feminine being, and they think that somehow being feminine is less than. So, I mean, it's not our grandmother's day where, the tables, were lopsided, that it was 90% the head of the household, the man's power, and only 10% that the women got a voice in. It's not that. So, the tables are a little bit more balanced today, but there is a lot of power in feminine power. It absolutely is not less than. And I think on the other side of the table is men are less aggressive, they're less willing to take a risk, they're less willing to walk over and say hello, and they want to have women do all the work. So actually, men have stepped into this crazy role of that they're just going to sit around and wait, which is female energy. They're going to wait for the girl to hit on them. So that I don't see that working either.
No.
We don't like getting our period. You guys don't like getting rejected. So what? It's a fact of life. You just have to deal with it. It's just how it is.
Absolutely. So tell me, Linda, what was it? What was the final step? What was going on in your life where you said to yourself, wait a second, I've got to write a book about this?
Well, after my divorce, I started writing a daily blog column, and it was so well received, and people kept saying to me after a couple of months, wow, your advice is really good. You should take this further, You should write a book. And, I got so many of those types of emails that I decided, well, maybe there is something to that. And I myself was in the dating scene, so I had to go through a lot of this stuff myself. And all of the tips that I promote in this new women's book, Hitched in 90 Days, I personally have done. So this is not pie in the sky. It's not, it is going to work because I've done it, and hundreds of other women have done it, and, to their great success. So the tipping point for me was, there's just got to be a better way. We have to, throw out the old rules because they don't apply anymore. They're outdated. And we have to bring in what does work. What does make the guy walk over to you? What does make him, ask you for a date? What does make him, call the next day? And finally, what does make him propose? And the opposites of all of those proposals. So, there is a way. Women shouldn't be lost. They shouldn't be, so depressed and sad, because there is a way out of this, and I'm going to teach them how to do it.
Well, let's go through some of those ways of attraction. I agree with you 100% that the gender confusion is way out of control, and because women have taken on such a masculine role, half the men are so confused we don't know what to do because we both want to hold on to our masculine roles, and then the other half, or whatever the percentage is, of attractive, good-looking guys, well-to-do guys, they do sit back, play the feminine receptive role, and wait for the aggressive woman to approach them. And that's a total confusion of the energies of feminine and masculine. So we are in a massive state of confusion right now, which if we don't straighten it out, it's going to get uglier and uglier. But I want to hear, how can a lady be feminine and have confidence in herself that she can attract someone? What do you suggest?
Absolutely. I think the men today, as you were mentioning a second ago, they're laying back because they're playing into the fear. The male fear is fear of rejection. I don't want to walk across this room because you might reject me. So that's why they're playing that role. But it's not a good role to play. That's, 10,000 years ago when we were hunters, the guy could not say, well, I don't want to go out in the wild today to catch the animal. Too bad. The whole village is going to starve. Absolutely, you're going to go out in the wild, and you're going to take that risk. Well, it's the same thing in the dating world. He has to take the risk. That's how our bodies are programmed, and that's how it works best. So they have to like stop with the fear of rejection thing and do it anyway. And for the men, I advise the best way to get over that is practice. Practice on anyone and everyone all day long. In fact, I recommend that you practice at least on 10 women a day. Now, don't practice on somebody who's a 9 or a 10. Practice on, you know, the 5s, the 6s, the 7s, whatever it takes. You know, you're getting gas in your car. You know, practice. You're going to the market. You're going to the cleaners. There's opportunities all day long to practice. And that way, when you finally do run into a woman who really floats your boat, you're not all tongue-tied. You've already got some of that built-up confidence that you've been practicing 10 times a day. So that's what it's going to take. And for the women, you were saying how to get into the feminine. Right now, women are sort of in their masculine phase. I mean, they are aggressive. They're the ones that are walking over to you. They're the ones that are asking you for your number. And I think a lot of women today, they don't know how to be feminine. You can get anything you want, but you don't have to do it in an aggressive way. So the best way to do this, men are physical. So if women use their physicality to announce their presence, that's what's going to work. So one of the easiest things women can do is smile. That's a physical gesture. It's not opening your mouth. It's not talking. It's not being the aggressor in that sense, but smiling is a great way. Another way would be get up and walk across the room. Walking, you're going to catch his eyes. Especially if you're walking away from him. So make an excuse to get up and go to the bathroom and walk by him. That's a physical gesture. You can use your face. You know, you can lower your chin and flutter your eyelashes. You can flick your hair. All these are physical gestures that absolutely do work and will catch a man's attention.
And as a man, hello, yes, I am a man, and I'm single for many years, married now with the same woman for 17 years, married now for 11. I'd like to suggest also the use of the eyes, because what I find women do is they play this game that if a guy looks at them, what's the first thing they do? They look away.
Yeah.
So they don't seem interested. So they don't seem like they're an easy catch. I think that's a huge mistake. I think if you see someone, you make eye contact with them.
I do have that in my book. In psychology, it is normal to only hold someone's gaze for 2 seconds. By someone, I mean a stranger. Only for 2 seconds. So what I recommend in the book is hold that person's gaze, meaning the woman holding the guy's gaze, for seconds 3 and seconds 4. Now, if you hold the gaze too long, like 5, 6, 7 seconds, that could get into the creepy phase, so that's not good either. But just hold it like 2 more seconds than you feel is comfortable, and that's enough to turn that situation around to get that guy to say, she's giving me an animal signal that it's okay to approach her. And again, it's not aggressive, it's not verbal, you're giving him a cue, a physical cue that it's okay to come forward.
So the name of your book is spectacular. Hitched in 90 Days or Less. I mean, it's a brilliant name. It causes all sorts of controversy and brings up all sorts of thoughts. And then they have to read your book to really find out what's going on in your book. What makes Hitched in 90 Days or Less different than from all the other relationship books that are out there right now?
Well, the book that I wrote before this book is for men, and it's called Mastering Women. And in writing that book, I really wanted to get to the average man on the street. Like, what problems is he facing today? What are his roadblocks? What are his fears? How is he doing dating-wise? How can this be better for him? And anyway, in writing that book, I scoured thousands and thousands of university research studies to academically back up what I was writing about, and I interviewed 20,000 men to find out what do they want with regard to dating and relationships. So the good news, how I'm different in the women's book for women, is that women have all that wonderful insight that I learned from these 20,000 guys. And you really will get to the meat of what works and what doesn't work. It's really an eye-opener. I mean, these things are not obvious. They have to. I have to bring them to your awareness. I have to bring them to your attention. But once you read what to do, once you read what turns the guy on or what motivates the guy, you're going to slap your head and say, "Gosh, this is so easy. I absolutely can do this." And you know what? The women absolutely can do this, and it is easy because it's inherent. This is how we were naturally programmed to act and react with regard to men. So a lot of my research took me back, way back, 10,000 years ago during caveman days, and I thought to myself, well, what did the caveman do? And a lot of our processes, I would say 99.9% of those processes are still the same now compared to 10,000 years ago. So when you tap into that inherent power, into that inherent attraction, I mean, the sky is the limit. You're going to get any guy you want. He's going to be falling over you. You're going to be desired. You're going to be adorable, and you're going to be irresistible. And, you know, what guy can say no to that?
And all those things that you just said represent a feminine, receptive woman.
Right.
That's what makes a woman so attractive, that she's in her femininity, not weaker, but in her natural femininity. And I think you and I both agree that if they take on this aggressive role, it's not very attractive. Not only does it look good, but it really isn't attractive. You're not going to attract the kind of guy that's going to say to himself, I want to be with her the rest of my life, because when you're the aggressor, you choose him. You don't even give him a chance to choose you. So you're not going to be the kind of lady that he wants to go after because you didn't give him a chance to choose you.
Right. That's absolutely true, and no guy wants to have, excuse my French, two penises in the room. So if there's too much male energy coming from the woman, most men do not find that to be attractive. And in some relationships that'll work for a little while. When I say little while, I mean like 3 months, 4 months. But after that, it's not a good energy on either turf. For the woman, you know, she might have gotten in, but after a while she will notice that she can manipulate the guy, and then she comes to a point of disrespecting you. So that's not a good energy. And from the male point of view, he just, you know, goes along with a relationship that he really doesn't want to be in. And he's going along because, who knows, maybe she's the one that has money, status, or power, and that's why he's going along with her being the dominant one. I'll tell you an interesting story. When I interviewed these 20,000 men, I absolutely interviewed the men who were proposed to by the wife. And every single one of them, I interviewed probably like 400 guys that fit into that category. Every single one of them, even though they were in a marriage, and some of them were in long-term marriages, everyone either cheated or they ended up ending that relationship because they didn't feel like the man. They didn't feel they could protect and provide and get into that hunter role. And that's why there was so much prevalent cheating with these guys. So they said yes by the woman being the dominant person, but it was not a happy marriage. In almost all the cases, it was not a happy marriage. So, you know, when women complain, oh, he's the non-committing type or what have you, it's more often you're not the right match for him.
Or you were too masculine for him by coming on to him And not, hey, a guy, if you're attractive and you look good and you take care of yourself and you come on to him, a lot of guys will say, sure, hey, you look good, you're sexy, but it's still not the one that he's choosing. And ladies really need to think about that when they continue on in their aggressive role. So I have another question for you. What's a big habit that holds women back from finding the right guy? What else do you have?
I think one of the things that women need to learn is learn how to say no. So what that means is I think women are very smart, they're very intuitive. When they go on the first date, within 5 to 15 minutes, they know whether this guy is going to work out or not. And I think mistakenly, a lot of women stay in a relationship for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, full on knowing this is not the right guy. So what my advice to them is you have to learn to say no. I want you to get into your feminine energy. I want you to be charming. I want you to say to be polite. But all you have to say on the first date, if you already know that this is not the right guy, just say, I had a really fun time. You're a really nice guy, but I didn't feel the click. And thank you for thank you for the dinner or the meet or however you guys got together, and move on. Say no. This is not the right guy, because at the end of the day, if you're not saying no, it means you don't respect him. So no relationship is going to get off the ground if you're not respecting your guy.
And he's not going to like it if you don't respect him, because, like you said earlier, just because things have changed in the last 10 to 20 years, it doesn't mean that a man still doesn't have those masculine feelings of wanting to be respected and wanting to be the leader. Just because that's sort of been taken away doesn't mean that we don't want that to still be that way. We're talking with Linda Gross. She's written the fantastic book, Hitched in 90 Days or Less. And Linda, a lot of people talk about red flags, knowing that that's not the guy they want to be with. Let's talk about red flags. What are some of the really obvious red flags that women need to look out for so they don't get entrenched into a dysfunctional relationship that it's going to be difficult to get out of?
Yeah, the respect thing is a really big one. So women have to be mindful. They really have to get into their gut, listen to their gut. And if something feels uncomfortable to you, just get out. You don't owe this guy anything, and it's so much easier to get out after the first date than it is to get out after 6 months. After 6 months, you've been using him. What is that all about? You were just with him because you wanted a free meal? I mean, it's just so wrong to use a guy in that manner. It's wrong for your karma. It's wrong for his karma. It's just wrong. So don't do it. It's a big red flag. And the more you get in touch with saying no, the easier it gets. So, you might stumble on your words the first 10 times or 20 times or whatever, but it does get easier. And what happens is the more you say no, you get in touch with actually what's going to make you happy. And you will seek out men who fit the mold a little bit better. And I really hate when women say, I don't have a type. It's the silliest statement that I hear coming out of women's mouth. You should have a type. The fact that when you say, I don't have a type, it really means, the translation of that means, I'll take anyone and everyone. Well, that's BS. We all know that that's not true. So why are you lying to yourself that you don't have a type? If you don't have a type, figure out what your type is. Figure out what qualities you really like in a guy and seek out men that have those qualities.
One of the most difficult things is getting to a second date. I think you'd agree with that. It's that first date that so much pressure, so much expectations. What is your view of what a first date should look like?
Well, the first date, I like to say, is just a meet and greet. And this advice gets met with a lot of resistance, but I don't care because it works so well. So my first dates, I always recommend have it be less than 1 hour. Short and sweet. You are just there to get that initial reaction, get that initial chemistry if it's there. 1 hour or less. No long dates, no going for dinners, no going to the movies, concerts, all these functions that are going to take you, 3, 4, 5 hours to do. Forget it. None of that. So the best thing about having a short date is, again, it connects you with your gut. It lets you know, is this guy going to work out? And if it does, and you send him on his way, guess what? He feels that excitement as well. So he will look forward to the next date. In fact, if you're doing it right, he will actually ask for date number 2 at the end of date number 1. So if he doesn't ask at the end of the date, he usually will ask within 72 hours. That's how you know. If the guy is taking 2-3 weeks to call you back, it usually means he's a player and he's not interested, and you're, one of a string of many. So, that's kind of the yardstick. So the first date, if you are connecting, both of you will look forward to the second date. The second date, it's perfectly okay to have a dinner date or a longer date, just not on the first date. And if you are not connecting, you haven't invested too much time or money or what have you on that first date, so that's okay too. Just chalk it up to experience and keep going.
I think ladies have to not get too much in their heads when it comes to that first date, because if the guy doesn't call in 2 or 3 or 4 days, all of a sudden they get all obsessed, especially if there was a spark of interest, and they really have to watch not getting carried away with that little obsession that they have, because the guy is hard to get. He's not giving himself that easily. And I think, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I thoroughly agree with you. They put so much focus on this first date, and they want to cram in so much information. Like, should I tell him I want to get married? Should I tell him I want to have kids? Should I tell him, this and that? And I'm like, hell no. You're not allowed to do any of that on the first date. It's a meet and greet. You want to get more into specifics on date number 2? Go ahead. On the first date, absolutely not. Well, then they're like, well, what should I be doing instead? I'm like, you only have 2 jobs in life. This is how you're going to get called back. And these are the 2 most important things that a man wants to see from the first date. Are you fun, and are you chill? That's it. You're there to have a good time. You're not there to talk about your 17-year-old son. You're not there to talk about your horrible boss. You don't get into those heavy conversations on the first date. Keep it light. He wants to know, are you fun and are you chill? He'll be calling you back.
Another big mistake I think people make is talking about the old boyfriends or girlfriends. I mean, I think that's a huge mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. Take all that negative stuff, leave it at the doorstep. Of course, that's part of your history. Of course, you're going to talk about it at some point, but that's not first date material. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think anyone should really talk about their old boyfriends. I think it's disrespectful, number one. I think you're not giving the person in front of you a chance to get to know you, and you're spewing all this negativity. Well, of course he's not going to call you back if all you're sharing about is why your boyfriends broke up with you and why you couldn't hold on to a relationship. Don't do any of that, Don't talk about the past. Don't talk about the future, because all you have is the present moment, and really go after that present moment.
Absolutely. And I have people who say, well, what if the other person brings up this kind of stuff? And I said, okay, so don't be rude. Say one sentence and then change the subject. Get out of it. In a charming way, just get out of that conversation. This is not first date material.
Hey, I don't talk about past relationships. And I think that's your one statement that will get them out of that. I have one more dating question for you. What do you think about, I know men are known to date a lot. What do you think about women dating a lot?
You know, it doesn't come natural for us, and this is one male trait, one male behavior that I do endorse. And the reason why that is again to get in touch with your no, that feminine, the power of the feminine no. We have ultimate veto power, don't we? In every sense we do. So I think it's not only is it okay to date a lot. I'm not saying have sex with every single guy, of course not, but to date a lot and to get the practice and to get in touch with who you are, what is it that Linda wants, what is it that Linda wants from this guy. You know, it really, really is important. And to that I say, if you're a baseball player, you're not going to get on the mound and just swing. You know, is it okay not to practice a lot? Heck no. You're practicing at spring training for months, you know, before the actual games, before the actual season begins, and then during the season, you're practicing on your off days. You're practicing hours ahead of the actual game. You are practicing a lot. So when you get on that mound, you're ready to go. You're ready to hit the ball. Same thing goes with dating. So it's absolutely okay for women to date a lot. And I think women have a tendency to put too many eggs in one basket. In other words, they put too much focus on this one particular guy, which also is a mistake. It's a first date, people. It needs to be fun and lighthearted. So the best way to do that is to date a lot. If you're dating 2 or 3 guys at the same time, then you're not focused on if guy number 1 is taking too long to call you back, because guess what? In 2 hours you have a date with guy number 2. So it relieves that pressure. It relieves women from over-focusing on the guy and putting too much importance on what he does or does not say. Keeps it lighthearted, and that's the most important thing to remember on that first date, is to keep it lighthearted.
Great information, Linda. This is wonderful. Your book sounds great. Tell us how we can buy your book and how we can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. The best place to buy my book is on Amazon. You can buy it in paperback and also the ebook. Just type it into the search engine, Hitched in 90 Days or Less, and it should come up. You can also visit me on my website and buy it there. My website address is myrelationshipexpert.net, myrelationshipexpert.net, and you can also follow me on Twitter. My handle is @DT4M, that's the number 4, @DT4M, and that's short for dating tips for me. So you can find these and all my social media links off the website.
Great guest, Linda. Thank you so much for being on the Love Coach Show. And, you know, we're going to have to go out there into the world and get the good word out there as best as we can.
Absolutely. And Bruce, for your listeners, if they mention this particular program, I'm going to give them 15 minutes free for love coaching. So they can use it for you know, life coaching, for dating, relationships. You can also use it. I have people that use it for business purposes because they want to move along in their career. So 15 minutes off the clock. Just mention this show.
That's great, Linda. Hitched in 90 Days or Less. Linda Gross, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll see you again next time on the Love Coach Show with another exciting guest. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.